بینندگان محترم، سلام علیکم. اسم دکتر کامرانی از شهر لس آنجلس کالیفرنیا از شبکه تلویزیون افغانستان تلویزیون، صاحبش دایرکترش سجاد جان کامرانی. این پروگرام مجدد است به نسبت اهمیت موضوع صلح و صلاح در افغانستان، عبور عساکر امریکا و ناتو از افغانستان و شروع امنیت در افغانستان. موضوع بسیار زیاد مهم است. در این بحث راجع به 3 مقاله با شما صحبت میکنم. مقاله اول از طرف طالبان به نشر رسید. در نشریه خود طالبان یک مکتوب برای رئیس جمهور امریکا، رئیس جدید جمهور امریکا، یعنی آقای دونالد ترامپ، اینا به نشر رساندن. به نظر من این مکتوب یک مکتوب بسیار مؤثر است و از نظر دیپلماسی، سیاسی و اهمیت موضوع بسیار خوب نوشته شده. یعنی یک راه صلح و صلاح را پیشنهاد کردن طالبان به امریکا، راه صلح و صلاح را پیشنهاد کردن. در این زمان متذکر شدن که این جنگ تقریبا 16 سال دوام کرده و نتیجه نداده و نتیجه نمیده. لذا باید ختم شود. به بسیار محترمانه اینا اظهار نظر کردن که ما میخوایم مستقیما که خود امریکا در این مسئله به صلح صلاح برسیم که در افغانستان امنیت به وجود بیاید. راجع به این که امرای حکومت فعلی افغانستان از قبیل دکتر غنی و دکتر عبدالله چیز متذکر نشدن، اما اظهار نظر کردن که مردم بسیار به سطوح رسیده، بسیار زیاد مصارف به جای شده از طرف حکومت امریکا و خسارات مردم افغانستان. لذا یعنی اینا به یک قالب بسیار دیپلماسی، از نظر دیپلماسی اظهار نظر کردن و اظهار نظر خود بسیار واضح ساختن که اینا میخوان صلح و صلاح کنن. برای دفعه اول است که کار شده. لذا ما میخوایم که بفهمیم که ریاکشن امریکا چی است. ریاکشن رئیس جمهور امریکا یعنی آقای دونالد ترامپ. ضمن طالبان در مکتوب خود متذکر شدن که 2 اعضای کابینه دونالد ترامپ که عبارت از وزیر دفاع ملی امریکا یا وزیر اربی امریکا و وزیر CIA امریکا، هر دوی از اینا در افغانستان وقت تیر کردن و خدمت کردن برای امریکا. یعنی منظورشون نیست که این 2 نفر وارد هستن راجع به موضوع افغانستان. این حالا من نمیفهم که یک چیزی که رئیس جمهور امریکا گفت دیروز که در بعض موضوعات همون چیزی که وزیر حربی امریکا به دونالد ترامپ پیشنهاد کنه، دونالد ترامپ او را قبول میکنه. و این وزیر حربی امریکا یک شخص بسیار مدبر است، با تجربه است و اعضای حربی امریکا به او بسیار احترام دارند و امید است که پیشنهاد صحیح باشه، یعنی پیشنهاد باشه که به مفاد صلح و صلاح باشه و به ختم جنگ باشه. این حالا من میخوایم که از کریس که یک جوان امریکایی است و راجع به مسئله افغانستان بسیار تتبع کرده و یک فیلم ساختن، ما از اینا پرسان کنم نظریه از اینا را که نتیجه این مکتوب طالبان از طرف رئیس جمهور امریکا چی خواهد بود. Chris, I explained to the audience the Taliban letter that was published in their own publications,
Right.
and addressed to the President of the United States, Donald Trump. In that letter, they pointed out first that the Afghans are tired of the war. They also pointed out about the damages that they sustained and the damages that the United States sustained. They in fact mentioned the figure of $1 trillion that was included in the letter that the Taliban published. I don't know exactly what the figure is. Nevertheless, you see, there has been enormous amount of economic damage, and of course the United States sustained around 2,400 soldiers plus 24,000 who were injured in the war in Afghanistan. And the fact that the Afghans are tired of it, they want to get out of it. One thing they did not mention is what they are going to do with the government of Afghanistan that has been set up in Afghanistan by the United States, namely the government of Dr. Abdullah and
Ghani.
And what?
Ghani.
Yeah, Ghani. So what do you think is the reaction would be by Donald Trump?
Well, judging from what we've seen so far from Donald Trump and just looking at who he has surrounded himself with, he surrounded himself with very hawkish individuals, generals that have shown to be very hardliners, and so in just predicting it, I don't foresee a good outcome. I foresee a prolonged occupation of Afghanistan, but the fact is that, I mean, it was really enlightening to see this article because it's so refreshing to see that the Taliban is presenting a very rational perspective. I mean, the article was a very good read, and that they're saying, these things that are pretty blatantly true. Look, they control a large portion of the country. You got to sit down with the Taliban. They have to come to the table. Let me pull up a graphic here.
That's the map right there.
Yeah, let's pull it up so people can see it. I mean, this is how much territory they're controlling right now. So
which territory is the Taliban?
The Taliban's the dark, the
dark
black
one.
here.
Okay, so they're all over the country.
Exactly. There's a significant amount of Afghanistan that's controlled by the Taliban. So this is a group that you can't just ignore. You can't just think that after 15 years and this is how much they control now that this is a war that can be won. This is not a war that can be won. They need to be factored into the negotiations, and there has to be an actual negotiation instead of just an ignoring of the situation.
Yes, very good. So you see, look at that map again.
Yeah, I'll bring it back up.
as you can see, the important spots in Afghanistan is controlled by the Taliban. See, you have the Helmand in the dark in the lower
Right.
part of the map, and then on the top on the left side you have Herat, which is an important city. Then on top to the right is Kunduz, which is a very important city, and then also there's some penetration close to the city of Kabul, which is the capital. Now another part is the east side, and that is a Pashtun stronghold. I'm very surprised that it's small. It should be much larger in reality.
Right.
So, so in a sense, they really look like they have controlled quite a bit of the land, but they control more people in the land, because a lot of the people have joined the Taliban. That's why the staying power is enormous. They're fighting against a superpower plus the NATO power. Only this one tribe.
Yeah, and they've been able to sustain themselves for 15 years. So there's really nothing to be accomplished. I mean, and just the concept itself, I mean, we've talked about this a lot, how the concept itself of invading and occupying land, you're not going to get something positive from that result anyway. And I mean, that's what we've seen the past 15 years, is just death and destruction.
Right. But you see, you mentioned the cabinet. I mentioned two people that the Taliban mentioned in their own letter. One is the Secretary of Defense, and the other one is the head of the CIA. Both of these individuals had worked in Afghanistan in the military capacity, so they are very familiar with Afghanistan, and especially the Secretary of Defense. I've read, and the opinions expressed about him is that he's a person who's very widely read. He's like a philosopher, soldier, and the military respect him a great deal. So that, I mean, if he has any common sense, which I think he does, he will realize the futility of this war.
Right.
And the fact that it has no purpose, and any further continuation will be nothing more than just more expenditures, which the United States cannot afford.
But do you see a problem, even if some of the individuals, even if Trump or the Secretary of Defense want to pull out, the wider pressure from the Republican Party as a whole, which usually tend to be very hawkish, usually don't want to pull out of situations, they like to stay invested in these wars?
Well, maybe, but if it's a short war, you see, as I mentioned in my previous section, the duration of World War II was only 5 years. It was the largest war that the world ever had, was the Second World War, but it lasted only 5 years. But this one is into its 16th year.
Right.
So I think, and the other thing, of course, is that the American public is not very well informed about the existence of this war.
Oh, yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
Now, once that becomes more known, I'm sure that the good Americans who don't believe in wars, they will probably go after it. They will probably pressure the government to get out of it.
Well, you know what was unique about this story of the letter? We showed a clip from the letter that was published by Al Jazeera, but I couldn't find many American outlets that published this letter. And this letter it's presenting a counter narrative, because typically what we hear from DC is that, the Taliban are this reckless terrorist group. They're not going to sit down and negotiate. But when you actually see what they're saying and what they're doing, they're very open to negotiations.
Afghanistan television, بفرمایید سید.
Assalamu alaikum.
سلام علیکم سید.
I want to bring your attention to one thing, that it's not the reality what you're talking about. Afghanistan, the Afghan government
ببخشید صاحب همین با فارسی بگوین که کبتر بفهمم منظورتون چی است؟
منظور من است که دم قطعه که با امریکا جنگ کرد افغان ها کشته داد که طالبان را پس کنند. اگر طالبان کاش که طالبان یک پارتی سیپلایز باشه یا مدرن باشه یا اینا که افغانستان را پس میبره بکوازه باز دیگه افغانستان هیچ وقت آزادی رو نخوادید به خاطر دیگه دلیل نیست که افغانستان از نگاه اقتصاد از نگاه یک چیز خودکفا نیست. اینا را که امریکا تا پول نده نمیتونن اون کشور به صورت درست پیش ببرن. همونطور نیست آقای کامرانی؟
صاحب نیست همونطور. بلازی که اینا میگن در اخبار خود چاپ میکنن که اینا $1 تریلیون در افغانستان مصرف کردن، چنانچه وزارت حربه امریکا اعلان کرد که امریکا در افغانستان زیادتر پول مصرف کرده نسبت به تمام ممالک اروپایی باز جنگ جهانی دوم. یعنی the Marshall Plan برای ریکنسترکشن اروپا اینا یک مقدار پول مصرف کردن و مقدار پولی که اینا در افغانستان باشه که خلاص کنم گپ من خلاص کنم صاحب. یعنی مقدار پولی که اینا ادعا میکنن که در افغانستان مصرف کردن زیادتر است نسبت به مقدار پولی که اینا در اروپا مصرف کردن. اما اروپا پس آباد شد، پس به جای رسید. امروز شما به من 2 دلیل بگوین که امریکایی‌ها در همین 16 سال کدام پروژه را آباد کردن که به مفاد مردم افغانستان تمام شده باشه؟
نه خب به مفاد مردم افغانستان تمام نشده. افغانستان به امریکایی‌ها یک ماشین پولشویی است. به خاطر که پول از سیستم خارج می‌سازن میبرن در افغانستان و دوباره پس به امریکا میارن. یک دوم دیگه 3-4 تا پایگاهشان کرده یا 5 تا در تمامش آنتی بالستیک میزایل ها نصب کرده. تجار اگه کرایش هم میداد $1 تریلیون که زیاد میشد. دیگه این که اونا آمدن که انفراستراکچر هایی را بسازن که شما در طول سالها از این استفاده کنید. و خاطر از این به افغانستان باید این همه تو جنگ و این همه تو محتاج باشه تا امریکا از این استفاده خوب ببره. و ببینید پاکستان در پهلوی اتمیک کانتری بعد چین اوجه و روسا اوجه و افغانستان هم بی سرپوش که حکومت
نه قربان ببخشید let me explain this نیست به نفع امریکا نیست او برادر. اگر باشه امریکا نمیبراین. این باید شما بگوید
امریکا هیچ ندارمده دکتر سه کجا برآمده امریکا برای پایگاهی که زیرکوها جور کرده از دی انتی بلاستیک مزایل که جور کرده یاچتو میشن چند نفره دوباره 200 نفره اگر من روان کرده 300 نفره اگر در من چیز گپ نباشه یا چرا وردک نمیرن چرا میدان شهر نمیرن چرا لوگر نمیرن از یک ولایت رفتن که اونجا یک ولایت سرحدی سویچ اونجا طالبان هم بانه اونجا حکومت کنن هر روز کسی از دران برند بزنن تمام سرایش از بین میره و بخواه امریکا در 3 روز در 5 روز در 10 روز دیگر طالبان وجود نمی داشته باشه.
You know, he's arguing that the United States is gaining by being in Afghanistan. I don't see any gain.
Well, we just showed the graphic of the...
Well, strategically, American are better off because they have set up their bases while the Russians, China, and Pakistan is next to Afghanistan, and Afghanistan has got no defense to charge any sort of rent or get any of these 5-6 bases they have got under the mountains. And the protection they give to the American bases.
جناب شما سعی کنید طرف صحنه در تلویزیون تا سعی کنید اون یک مپ افغانستان است و در اون مپ نشان دادن که کدام جاها تحت تصرف طالبان است. جای بسیار
تحت تصرف طالبان اونجا را نمیمونن که اونجا انارکی باشه که اونجا کسی نبیبینه که چی را بود نبیبینه که چی گپ نیست دیگه. اگر یکی نبخواست حالا خوی هر عقل سالم میگه دکتر که یک افغان چی طالب باشه با هر کس باشه قدرت خرید یک تفنگ کلان نداره.
نداره، لیکن چطور 16 سال میشه که به مقابل امریکا و نیتو جنگ میکنن؟
ناره کدام کسی پول میتونه یک کن چیزا را میخرن، زمستان که یا میخرن، ماین یا میخرن، لوجیستیکش یا دارن، یه اصل ساله میگه میگه که از کدام طرف سپورت میشه.
نه قربان گوش کنین، در وقتی که طالبان رفتن در قندوز، تمام اساکر حکومت افغانستان از قندوز گریختن، از ولایت برآمدن، خود والیش در طیاره گریخت. فهمی اونا جنگ نکردن.
قربانت به خدا که جتا بیس اساسی باشه، اگر تمام حکومت پاکستان هم بیاده در 5 روز یک کسی از سنگراش فرستانده بتانه، کدام گفت شد که فیلا بتنه بزنید که مثلا کسی کشته نشه یا امور کم بانده در مناطق شمال طالبان چطور میتونه در اول این سوال ملکی وقتی
خور ببینید سر در قندوز در شمال است که در شمال در قندوز
چطور رفتن اینا میتونن که تو چبلق و که تو کلاوش و که تو چیز به اون زمستان بخیزن.
اونمو صاحب شما را باید به تعجب پرتنه که چطور میتونن. من خود
این خود از یا میبرن اونجا.
چی کده؟
این یا خودشان میبرن اونجا.
کی امریکایی ها؟
من دلیل میگم نیست اگه امریکایی نمیبره امی چیش نمیبره چوکرایش نمیبره مثلا اینا نمیکستن کسی چیه پاکستان حالا مثلا همینجا ازبکا را بردن ازبکای ازبکستانی را تاجیکی ها را برده یا انفلتریت میکنن انفلتریت که دیستیبلایز بسازن آسیای میان آسیای میان دیستیبلایز آفتوجه این شکل نفتست اکر پلاست اکر میتست هر چیز نیست.
You see, what he's saying is that he cannot explain the staying power of the Taliban because the Taliban didn't have any guns and didn't have any ammunition and didn't have shoes and so forth and so on. But I said, well, that should surprise you because they've been able to fight back for 16 years.
Right.
Right?
I mean, and they had control of Afghanistan before the United States came in, so.
That's right.
But I understand.
Good point.
Where is the Taliban getting supplied by? From who?
Where are they getting supplied from?
Yeah.
I mean, they've been supplied from a number of different sources over the years. I don't think that's really the importance. What I want to address is.
But that's very important if we cut the supply to them.
Well,
Taliban.
At this point in time, though, they're so well supplied that it doesn't really matter if we talk about cutting off one supply or another. They're getting so many resources right now. They have so much control over territory and weapons and people right now that I don't think that's the main issue.
Chris, yes. Afghanistan is not like America. A ordinary person or Taliban cannot afford even one gun. One gun they cannot afford, but they are equipped.
How can they stop the United States, sir? I mean, you have to be realistic. You have to give them credit. They are a force. You see, the government of Afghanistan cannot fight them, although the government of the United States is paying for 350,000 soldiers, Afghan soldiers, and yet they cannot hold down. They cannot.
They defeated Taliban in about 15 days when they first went to Afghanistan, didn't they?
No, they were just bombed by airplanes. The Americans did not have soldiers there.
That's a good
when Taliban was defeated in 2001 in a matter of a month or 15 days.
I'm not really understanding. Are you arguing that this war can be won if the United States commits more forces?
No, it's not committing more forces. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about a real honest campaign, and nobody's trying to remove Taliban from Afghanistan because some people want this Taliban to infiltrate into the Central Asian republics because a lot of mines and resources are laying under earth and untouched in those republics.
Mm-hmm.
No, that's not the case. I mean, you know what? Sir, listen to me. The United States buys minerals throughout the world whenever they need it. They don't go and take over countries because they have mineral resources. The United States did not.
Everything is economics nowadays, isn't it?
No, you see, the United States went to Afghanistan because they were because of 9/11, because they were attacked in New York, and they thought that the Taliban were helping the Arabs, which was not true. You see, so I'm going to talk about.
If this was the case, every blind person even knows that the basis of Taliban and the terrorists are in Pakistan, and nobody take any action against the Pakistani government.
Well, I mean, we can talk about Pakistan. This is a very complex situation.
Pakistan has been exploiting the United States. They took a lot of money from the United States. They are trying to keep the war going because that's to the advantage of Pakistanis, and that's what I've been.
But a superpower like the United States,
Yeah.
stop Pakistan misusing misusing the United States, and the money they take is a ransom. So they always
Okay, you know, the United States was inept. They did not know how to handle Pakistan until recently. For a long time, they did not believe that Pakistan was dishonest. But
a lot of Afghans were complaining to the United States, and the United States army could see that where these Taliban were coming from.
well, you see, the United States was not sure. Only in the last 2-3 years they figured out. For the last 10 years they did not. I mean, look at look, sir.
As Mr. Trump said, the CIA was so weak and inefficient.
Yes. And look at Bin Laden. Bin Laden went to Pakistan from Afghanistan in 2001, in December of 2001, and he was kept there for 10 years. And
because after 10 years, the expiry date was just arriving, so he needed to be expired because he was not, he was not useful anymore.
well, no, that's not the case. The case is that Pakistan was successful to hide Bin Laden from the United States. The United States asked Pakistan every year, where is Bin Laden? But they say, we don't know. They were lying.
Even a little child in Afghanistan knew that Pakistan was involved.
Exactly.
They could see that it was coming from there.
Yeah, exactly. The children knew, all Afghans knew, the whole world knew, but the United States did not know. This is how stupid. This is how stupid the United States is. Is that true?
I don't believe when they can fly an airplane with tons of weight to the sky, and they adjust the physics of the wings, and they know a lot of physics, and they're a superpower, and they didn't know about Pakistani support of Taliban. I wonder.
They did not know they did not know that the Pakistan was hiding Bin Laden for 10 years in Pakistan.
No, but they didn't know that Pakistan was supplying Taliban.
No, they were not. Okay? Forget it. That's not the issue. The real issue is, look at it today. After 16 years, the United States was not able to conquer Afghanistan. Okay?
That's not true, because always we wrongly boost up about ourselves that nobody can conquer us. Oh, we are such a brave people. Oh, this, that. Brave people I call the brave people are those who are self-sufficient. If you're self-sufficient, you don't need to obey others. If you're not, you're always slave, you're a coward, and you cannot defend yourself.
All right, sir. I think I want to end our conversation at this time. Thank you.
I was a little confused about what he was trying to argue at certain times.
He was arguing all sides.
He's just arguing a bunch of so it was a little hard to wrap my head around it. But I mean, like you just pointed out, the main issue here is the United States cannot control the entire country of Afghanistan. We've seen 16 years of this nonsense. I mean, when are we going to be real?
Well, not only that, not only the United States, but the Soviets were there for 10 years,
right,
and they were closer to Afghanistan. Mm-hmm. And one of the generals who wrote his memoirs, the Soviet memoirs, he wrote in his book that the Soviet forces went to every village in Afghanistan trying to control it. Okay, they couldn't do it.
Yeah.
Because the minute you went to the village, and the minute you left that village, the village was independent again.
Right, and I understand people's concerns about giving credibility or validity to the Taliban, but what people want is a cultural change, and you can't win a cultural change through warfare. It's something that's going to have to take a long time, and it's going to have to be done through peace. There has to be a peace settlement,
Exactly.
and then you work on cultural changes.
Yeah, you see, you're like a professor of philosophy. You see, the point is, what Chris is saying, that if we want to change the attitude of people in Afghanistan towards women education, towards towards women's rights, we have to give them time. You cannot do it overnight.
Right.
See, because we tried it in the past, in the history of Afghanistan. At the time of Amir Amanullah Khan, the King Amanullah, he tried that. He actually told the women to throw your veils off and wear Western clothes and so forth and so on. What happened to him? They overthrew him. Okay, it didn't work. And then the king of Zahir Shah, they were extremely careful that after 40 years, slowly, they finally gave more rights to women. But then the Taliban came and they overthrew the whole thing. Okay, they followed the Arab line of argument, and now they're trying again. So this is the problem. It's a problem in Afghanistan. My view is that we have to give them time and education, and we will succeed.
Yes.
Look at this station. This station is created by an Afghan woman in Los Angeles, and she created the entire studio and have programs from here, and it's going to Afghanistan, to Europe, everywhere else. And no one would have thought about this 5 years ago, 10 years ago, that no woman, Afghan woman, could do that. But now this is an innovation on the part of Sajja, and I suggest to my Afghan friends that you should contribute your advertisement to this station so that it becomes financially stable. And she's spending everything out of her pocket right now. At any rate, the point is that we have to give it time. So Sajja had the time, and she exploited properly, and she opened this studio. And there was another program we had today where internet is being used to convey academic lectures to students in universities in Afghanistan. So you don't have to come all the way from Afghanistan to a university here. You can stay there and get the proper lectures and learn. All right? All of these things take time. So now that the Taliban have made this proposal, I'm sure that the Taliban are also prepared to make concessions concerning women's rights, which is an important issue for the United States and for the world as a whole. The point is that, as you saw the demonstrations in Washington 2 days ago, millions of women demonstrated for women's rights were in the United States because they don't think that they have enough rights right now for themselves, especially the abortion right. Okay, so this is a contest that's going on, and over time, you see, it changes. Now, there's changes in marriages. There are changes in all kinds of taboos that religions would prohibit, but governments now are implementing. Isn't that true?
Yeah, well, a perfect segue to this example I like to give to people, because it might be hard for some people that don't live in Afghanistan to try to relate to it. So I try to relate to it like this: that just like think about the people marching for women's rights. Now they're out there; they don't think they have what they need in social justice, and they disagree with Republicans now. And they're very upset about the Republican control right now in the presidency and the Congress. But do they want Russia or China to come invade the United States and just start killing all the Republicans, or until they stop, having political influence? We don't we here in America, a lot of us disagree with where we are culturally. We disagree with who's in power, but we don't think that that's going to be solved by war or by some other foreign force coming in and forcing us to accept a certain way.
So in a sense, what you're saying is that the Americans cannot force cultural change in Afghanistan.
Exactly.
You should give the Afghans time to change it themselves.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
That's it. Thank you. Okay, so what we did so far, we discussed the letter that the Taliban published for President Trump to read. And what Chris mentioned, which is a very important point, that this is the first time that the Taliban have written such a letter, and it's a very modern, diplomatically sound, politically sound, and psychologically sound letter. And the United States should pay attention to which thing.
Right, and
And they did not brag. They did not say, "Listen, we'll kill you." They didn't say that. What they said, we want peace.
And what's so interesting is that this is not actually something new. I mean, if you look back, so for my film, I did a lot of research about the early stages of this war and what was happening and what was being communicated. And I looked at a lot of the diplomatic cables. So the representatives from the Taliban talking with American diplomats.
Yeah.
And they were very willing to make concessions, to negotiate, to have a settlement very early on. I'm talking like right after the initial bombings and before that, they were very willing to work with the United States. And that's a history that you've detailed in your writings and your work.
Yes, Chris, the point is this, that the United States was negotiating with the Taliban concerning bin Laden before 9/11.
Right.
Before 9/11. And what the Taliban was saying, give us proof that bin Laden was involved, okay? The United States did not give the Taliban any proof because they didn't really have it. And I read the memoir of President Clinton. In his book, President Clinton has written that the reason he did not retaliate against the Taliban when the American embassies were bombed, because the intelligence agencies of the United States were not unanimous as to who was responsible. So therefore he could not take any action because he did not know who did it. See, the point was, did bin Laden do it or not? And Clinton took the confusion of the intelligence agencies and did not take action. So when the embassies were bombed in Africa, I mean, that was a problem of the United States. Now,
when that happened, what Clinton did authorize was a strike on what they thought was Al-Qaeda camps, and only Al-Qaeda camps, not Taliban strongholds.
yeah, it was a Tomahawk.
Right. But I think I think they ended up hitting a camp that had a bunch of Pakistanis in it or something. It was kind of up for debate who they struck.
I thought it was a winning party.
Well,
they have done
who knows? Yeah,
times.
Who knows what we're hitting nowadays?
Whenever there was a winning party, they would hit it, and then they found out afterwards that it was a winning party.
Yeah. I mean, there's been a lot of
Afghans believe in big winnings.
Yeah, a lot of casualties.
Yeah, lots of casualties. Well, whenever they see a crowd, they think there's something going on.
Yeah.
Okay, now going back to Taliban's letter, I want to congratulate the Taliban for writing that letter, and I hope that they continue taking the same line if there's any negotiation on the subject. You see, the point that you just mentioned before 9/11, that there was some diplomatic exchange between the United States and the Taliban. What the Taliban were saying is this, that their counterparts from the U.S. State Department were not treating them with respect.
Right.
Okay? They were treated like dirt. Okay, they would not even allow them to sit down on a chair. So they were very upset because Afghans are very, proud people. They believe in respect and, in proper decorum and so forth and so on. They were not getting that. So they also walked out and said, we are being insulted. So they were insulted by our own diplomats.
Well, the way the United States government has handled itself in the world is, this is what we want, and if you don't give it to us, we're going to take a very aggressive approach, including warfare.
Exactly.
So, yeah.
Okay, so let's hope that if there is any diplomatic contacts between the United States and the Taliban, that our diplomats would behave like a diplomat. Salaam alaikum. Afghanistan television.
Taliban didn't want to sit on a chair because they had to follow Sunnah. So they love to sit on the floor rather than on a chair.
What did he say?
Can you repeat your question, sir?
I say Taliban didn't want to sit on a chair if they were offered by American a chair because they wanted to sit on the floor as a Sunnah.
No, that was not the case. No,
it is the case because
they would sit.
The offices and they put the the bamboo-made carpet to sit on that to follow Sunnah.
No. When they went to the State Department in Washington, D.C., there were chairs and they were sitting on the chairs. I had one case where the Taliban went to the State Department, and I had a former student of mine who was also an American who was working at the State Department. He was there and he called me. He said, I'm in the meeting, I'm going to this meeting with the Taliban. And I said, please call me and tell me if they gave the Undersecretary a report about 20 pages. I want to know if they would deliver that report to them. And he called me back and he said that after 1 hour of discussion, the Taliban all got up from their chairs, they went to the corner of the room and they started praying. And he was laughing his head off as to what happened. But that's the way the Taliban were. When it was time to pray, they would pray. And so...
So your suggestion is that the Taliban should be allowed to rule Afghanistan once again? Okay.
No, I'm not saying that. You are saying that. I'm not saying that. Okay. What I'm saying is that.
From your speech, from your talking, I understand that they should be talked with.
No. You should listen to me as to what I'm saying.
Share to the government.
Sir, you should listen to me. What I'm saying. What I'm saying is that the United States and the Afghan government should specify exactly what they want from the Taliban, what kind of concessions that the Taliban would agree to. Let me give you my own opinion. In my opinion, the Taliban should not be under the control of the government of Pakistan. All of them should move out of Pakistan, go back to Afghanistan, and go to their own country. That's point number one. Point number two, the Taliban should negotiate with the other, because Afghanistan is a tribal society. Our country always was controlled by the tribes, okay? So we have to give the government back to the tribes, just like Trump said that he's taking the government from Washington back to the people. We have to get the government from Kabul back to the tribes in the provinces, in the villages, and let them decide what kind of government they want to have and what kind of rules.
Well, Afghanistan government has established a reconciliation committee. The head of the committee died a few days ago, and they're all made of these people known to Afghan people and to the Taliban, and they are never ready to negotiate things.
Good.
Are they?
I don't know. I mean, I'm not in Kabul.
You know that very well that organization has been made by Afghanistan government to contact Taliban, negotiate the way, to get them away back to the government, but they never show any readiness to do so.
No, because the government of Afghanistan under both governments, they were dishonest. They did not want to make peace with the Taliban, okay? In 2003, President Obama ordered the State Department to meet with the Taliban in a peace conference. You know who went against it? Karzai. Karzai challenged it, said, we don't want that, we don't want to negotiate with the Taliban. He just foiled the whole approach and it went away. See, now Dr. Ghani and Dr. Abdullah say we are ready, willing to negotiate with the Taliban, but they're dishonest. What they do, they put a lot of Taliban in jail. You can't put one of them in jail and say, I want to negotiate with them. They're really dishonest. They are really dishonest. I don't trust them.
No. On the contrary, Ghani and some few more, they released Taliban from prisons.
Maybe they released some Taliban, but they also have put a lot of Taliban.
When Ghani first came on power, he released a lot. Now after negotiating with Nake Kamrany, they released many Taliban by saying these are the member of Islamic.
Well, I don't know that, sir. I disagree with the possibility of Hekmatyar coming to Kabul. Hekmatyar should not be given any more role in Afghanistan.
Why not? Hekmatyar was working for the CIA for such a long time. Soviet Union.
That's what you are saying. He's not admitting.
He deserves a share in a democratic government installed by the United States because he has been pro-United States for at least a decade and a half.
Well, Hekmatyar was really working for Pakistan, not for the CIA.
No, but Pakistan is working for the United States. The United States is giving a lot of funds to ISI, the intelligence service of Pakistan.
Yes.
Yeah.
Pakistan really was very dishonest with the United States and with Afghanistan.
Pakistan has not been dishonest, Dr. Asad. With the help of Pakistan, United States caused this integration of the Soviet Union.
Well, yes, they've certainly defeated the Soviet Union, but by providing with missiles, and with armaments, but they did not send any soldiers.
Why should they send that soldier when Afghans are being sheep to be given money? They work for anyone.
Yes.
There was no need for Pakistani soldiers.
Yes, sir, that's true. I was in Peshawar one time, and I went to one of the camps, and an American fellow was with me, and he wanted to be given an opportunity to go inside and fight, okay? And and when I told this to the camp, they said, no, we don't need any foreign fighters, we have our own fighters, we don't need it. They wouldn't accept it.
Because Afghan people, they are always ready to fight. A legitimate government and non-legitimate government, and because Afghanistan is suffering from poverty, lack of education, so anybody can use them as a tool.
Yeah, but regardless of what you think or what you have said or what I say, there's one thing very, very clear, okay? That all Afghans, I'm not talking about Pashtuns, I'm talking about all Afghans.
No, I'm not talking about Pashtun or Farsi, but you're taking side a little bit because for some reason you want to install a local government in every locality of Afghanistan. Not a centralized government.
No, all Afghans are the same. They're all nationalistic, okay? The Hazaras, the Uzbeks, the Tajiks, the Pashtuns, they're all nationalistic. They love their country. Okay, I know that because I've lived in this country in the United States, and I've been in contact with my Afghans, and I know all of them, and they all love Afghanistan.
But you're explaining otherwise to Chris.
Explain what?
Explain this to Chris. Is that what you're saying?
You were saying to Chris that Taliban should be given a right to run in their own provinces, in their own, localized type government.
Did I say that?
Well, I mean, what we're saying is there needs to be a negotiation and an agreement. We're not proposing any sort of representation or anything like that.
No. We want the Afghans to get together and solve the problem. This is not a problem of foreigners. That's why all of the foreign conferences failed. You know, they had the Chinese, the Pakistanis, the Europeans, the United Nations, and all of these peace talks about the Taliban, and they all failed. You see, my view is the conflict is right now between the Taliban and the United States, and these are the only two parties who should negotiate. After they solve it, then they can take it to the rest of the Afghans.
No, that's like I said, when foreign countries, they give money to the parties, they've got a right of say. They've got a say. They have to be satisfied as well. Otherwise, they can give money for nothing.
No, you see, they give some money because they caused damages in Afghanistan. They destroyed the villages. They destroyed everything. You know, I was there in 2005, and I could not believe my eyes what I saw. You see, in Kabul, nearly half of the stores were down into rebels. You know, just right now, if you see on television, you see Syria, you see some cities in Iraq. It's just like Kabul was just like that. So someone has to build this. You see, it will take 50 years to rebuild what is damaged.
When they give money to rebuild your country, they should also be given a right. The donors should be given a right to have a role and deciding on political issues.
You know, listen. NATO had no right to go to Afghanistan. Legally, NATO was created to fight the Soviet Union if the Soviet Union conquered Europe or attacked some European countries. But the Soviet Union never did that, and therefore NATO was never put into action against the Soviet Union. The first time that NATO was put into action was against Afghanistan. But Afghanistan was not a European country in the first place. In the second place, Afghanistan had not attacked any European countries. So the rule number 5 of
But Afghanistan had no defense. Afghanistan is located in a place where nobody is concerned.
but
it will not be considered around the world as a country. Afghanistan cannot defend itself as a country, can they?
Yeah, but see, rule number 5 of NATO was that if a country attacks one of the NATO countries, then all of the NATO countries have to go for the defense of that country. But that never happened. The Soviet Union did not attack any of the European countries, and Afghanistan never attacked any of the European countries or the United States. So the invasion of Afghanistan by the United States was illegal.
Well, the United Nations given us permission to, what is that called? United Nations resolution allowed the United States and the coalition to go to Afghanistan.
No, I mean, how do you answer that? The United States can get any resolution from the United Nations. Isn't that true?
Plus, yeah.
The United Nations gave the resolution to go and to go to Afghanistan and fight Al-Qaeda.
But that's not what the United States did. The United States went in to remove the Taliban and occupy the country. We should have had a police action to remove Al Qaeda. That's what should have happened, was a police action, not an invasion.
But what happened? The United States instead invaded Afghanistan and changed the government. It was change of government.
Yeah, that's because of the tribal culture. When they say that somebody refuge in your tribe, you have to defend it. So the Taliban said, okay, Bin Laden has come to our country, we gave him sanctuary, whatever happened.
Yeah, but you cannot change culture by force. Culture only
It's
changes.
not changing the culture. The United States wanted the enemy.
Yeah, you see, the fact that the United States is penalizing Afghanistan for treating their women, okay, the way they do, actually, that is trying to change their culture, but that's not the culture of the Pashtun.
I think it's a very misunderstanding. United States has never forced people to change their culture. On the contrary, they have been very liberal towards it. Even the journalists, Western journalists, when they go somewhere, they wear, the scarves on their head.
I don't know. I think we are not getting anywhere.
What was the last?
No, the thing is, Afghanistan needs alliance, and to be allied to a powerful country is better than being allied to a poor country like Pakistan and Iran. And it's very good to be allied to a United States. And the United States has got a duty towards Afghan people to stay there and help them, because Afghanistan has been destroyed. All the infrastructure has been destroyed fighting former Soviet Union. That's it. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Well, let me address that. So he's saying that Afghanistan needs an ally, but the United States is not acting as an ally. The United States is exploiting Afghanistan, is trying to control Afghanistan. An ally is somebody that stands back and supports you if you're attacked.
Help you out. Yeah.
Right, but what we're trying to do is aggressively attack and enforce our own ways and make sure that we have in that government somebody that we want. That's not an ally. That's an aggressor. So,
Okay, very good.
Yeah, we would like to see an ally that's there to genuinely help Afghanistan, but the United States right now is not helping the country of Afghanistan.
Yeah, when I went to Afghanistan in 2005, I was talking to some Americans from Agency for International Development, and also some Americans from the Pentagon. One of the military guys told me, he asked me why I was in Kabul. I said, I'm here to help out with economic development of Afghanistan. And he said, you know what? We are here to kill our enemies. We are not here to help economic development. And that was the attitude that they had, okay? So that was not allies. That was enemy, basically. And what was the cause of the enemy? That brings me to my paper that I published in the Huffington Post. And do we have a copy of that?
I can bring it up,
Let me
sure.
see.
Yeah. 1 second here. Here we go.
Okay, here's the topic of the article. It says President Trump's opportunity to end American war in Afghanistan. All right, my argument first is that the invasion of Afghanistan was illegal because there was no proof, no evidence that the Afghans participated with the Arabs or supported them. They did not do that. They did not even know the agenda of the Arabs vis-a-vis the United States. And they were not told. They were kept in the dark. Bin Laden went to Afghanistan because he was there at the time of the Soviet war, and he helped the Afghans. So he had good name with the Afghans at that time. They did not know that this fellow would do anything from Afghanistan against the United States. That's point number one. Point number two, the organization of Al-Qaeda that was created by Bin Laden, it was created not in Afghanistan, it was created in Peshawar, Pakistan. That is proof. There's proof of that. And so all of the activities of Al-Qaeda was from Pakistan outward. It was not from Afghanistan, okay? And thirdly, if you look at the organization of of bin Laden. In that organization, from security guards to the top people, they were all Arabs. None of them was non-Arab. And there was no Afghans, no Iranians, no Pakistanis, no Indonesians, just Arabs, because they did not trust anyone else but Arabs. That's exactly what happened. So therefore, there was no proof that the Afghans were part of the bin Laden agenda. They were not. And yet, there was a government change, and Afghanistan was occupied and attacked by Air Force, and then later on by soldiers. And then they brought NATO into it. Now, NATO was created after World War II against the Soviet Union, so that if the Soviet Union attacked a European country, those members of NATO were supposed to defend that country against Soviet aggression. But the Soviets never attacked any of those countries, and therefore the NATO Rule 5 was never implemented. So the only time that NATO attacked another country was in Afghanistan. And yet Afghanistan had not participated in anything that was an attack upon any European countries or the United States. So you see, the participation of NATO in Afghanistan was illegal. And some European people demonstrated against their participation. In England, they demonstrated against the presence of the British troops in Afghanistan, which constituted the fourth Anglo-Afghan war. We had three Anglo-Afghan wars. The third one was at the time of Amanullah Khan. But the fourth one was in 2002. They went to Helmand and they occupied Helmand, okay? But no consequence. They spent some money, they spent some blood, they did not get anywhere. The British public forced the government to pull out. The same thing happened in France. You know, the French government, under the pressure of the United States, sent soldiers, occupied the southern part of Afghanistan, and then they were forced to pull out. The Germans, under the rule of World War II, were not supposed to have any army or participate in any military action. But the United States forced them to come. So they said, well, under the rule that we have signed with you, we cannot participate in wars. Then they were told, all right, go to the northern part of Afghanistan and do non-military work. But they were forced to go there. But also some non-NATO members were forced to go, like Korea, like Japan. You know, they were just, John Kerry, the Foreign Secretary of the United States, just would call them and threaten them to do it, or else, and they did it. So you see, Afghanistan suffered a lot from the NATO occupation and the United States operation. And after 16 years, after 16 years, this is the 16th year of the occupation, what did the United States get, or NATO? Nothing. Nothing. The situation in Afghanistan has worsened so far as security is concerned. There is no security in any part of Afghanistan. In fact, it got worse. The more soldiers that were sent to Afghanistan, the security situation got worse. So there was an inverse relationship between the occupation and security. The same thing is also true with economic development. So economic development ceased, it stopped completely. New companies did not develop, employment went down, unemployment rate was over 40%, in some places was 70%. So what did the Afghans get out of this occupation? Nothing but misery. And if you look at it from a political point of view, from a moralistic point of view, from a logical point of view, from a rational point of view, that war does not make any sense to anyone. And therefore, how does it make a sense in Washington? See, I received a letter from President Obama, and he said that according to the advice of his security people and military brass, he stayed in Afghanistan and kept his soldiers there. You see, those people who gave him that advice gave him the wrong advice. And I hope that they don't give the wrong advice to President Trump. I hope that Mr. Trump, because during the campaign, he had said one thing, that he does not want to get involved in wars in third world countries. The former Secretary of Defense, when he left that service, he wrote in his memoir that the United States should not get involved in conflicts with third world countries. And yet, over the last 8 years that Obama was the president, the United States was in war with Somalia, with Afghanistan, Iraq, Syria, Pakistan, and a couple other African countries. These are the so-called third world countries, which means that their per capita income is much below the middle income countries or the top countries. So why would the United States beat up on the poorest countries in the world? Afghanistan television. Salam alaikum.
Salam alaikum, Dr. Sir.
بفرمایید سید.
شما این میشیگرد میدونیم ولی من یک دریشو بفهمیم
ببخشید من یادم رفت
که ما بفهمیم ما بیچاران بفهمیم
Did you he said you're speaking in English, we don't understand you. بفرمایید سید. خب خیلی من هیچ نفهمیدین. Hello? Hello? Yeah,
Is that all you wanted to say?
That's all you wanted to say. Okay, ببخشید.
You can tell them what I'm saying is good.
یا هر چیزی گفتم خوب
It's good stuff.
یا فکرم کریس که چیزی که گفتی خوب گپ زدی. خب من چیزی که گفتم همیست که همی بدبختی که در افغانستان است و همی که امریکا و نیتو افغانستان اشغال کرده یک بدبختی است که هیچ به عقل برآور نمیاد. برای از اینکه اینا بسیار زیاد مصرف کردن، هم پول هم خون و بسیار خسارات زیاد آوردن بر سر مردم افغانستان. بیکاری مردم افغانستان 40% است، بعضی جایاش 70% است. فهمیدین؟ مثلا بیزنس ها شروع نمیشه، امارات ها نمیشه. شما اگر کابل برید، امی صحنه کابل که ببینید دکان ها و بلابتر این این چیز که در تلویزیون میبینین راجع به عراق، راجع به سوریه و این آبادی از این جایا 50 سال 100 سال دیگر نمیگیره. اول خب اینا پول ندارن پس این آباد کنن، دوم بسیار زیاد وقت هم میگیره. یعنی یکی از خسارات جنگ خب ماندار خون مردم است که قتل میشن، خرابی امارات است از بین میره، دیگه قتل حیوانات است از قبیل گاو، گوسفند، شتر، خر، بلاوتر، اینا از بین میره. و یک چیزی بسیار زیاد مهم وقت است. وقت که وقتی چیزا وقت کار داره. مثلا در 1960 1950 1960 1970 افغانستان آستا هر سال 4% 5% 8% بالا می رفت. بعد از اینکه روسا آمد که استاپ شد تا امروزه. جای بسیار جای تأسف است. حالا برای از که پس ما شما به 1970 بریم یک 30 سال 40 سال کار داره. اینمی یک از قیمت‌های زمین جنگ است و این تاوان جنگ امریکا ممالک ناتو باید بپردازه، اما امریکا پول نداره. امریکا اقدر مصرف کرده در افغانستان و در عراق و در سوریه و در دیگر جاها دمی 7 مملکت که براتون قصه کردم که حال بیخی به افلاس است. دیگه دیده شد که مستر ترامپ چی کرده میتونه. مثلا کوشش میکنه که نیتو زیادتر پول مصرف کنه و ضمن مسائل تجارت رو تبدیل کنه، تا یک اندازه سر واردات یک تکس بگذاره که واردات کم شود و خود امریکا تولیدات خود بالاتر ببره. Alright, so I'm explaining my article, okay?
Right.
Would Trump stop the war in Afghanistan? So whether you look at it logically, politically, morally, humanitarianly, in any respect, they have to redo it. It does not make any sense. What do you think?
Well, yeah, I'm with you on that, and I've agreed with almost everything you've said today. And we can only hope, though, because it's just so uncertain right now. We haven't seen a president like Donald Trump before, so it's very uncertain as to what will happen.
Yeah. Yes, that's true. He's not consistent. I mean, he says things and then he changes it. So you don't know.
Right, because he's given two perspectives on Afghanistan. I think a few years ago he said that we shouldn't be in Afghanistan, that it was a mistake. But then last year he said that he would stay in Afghanistan. So.
But he said he would stay in Afghanistan because Pakistan has atomic bomb.
Right.
I don't know what that has to do with Afghanistan.
Right. That doesn't even make sense. But. Yeah.
You see, that's another thing, Chris. Well, the United States was very emotional, okay? When 9/11 took place, they did not know who did it. President Bush was looking for a state that did it so they could retaliate. They could not find a state. But then finally they decided to pick on Afghanistan, okay? Or let's assume you pick on Afghanistan. Well, pick on Afghanistan for 3 months, for 6 months, not for 16 years. Even many American intellectuals have said that why 16 years?
Right.
As I said before, World War II was only 5 years.
Well, if there hasn't been a lot of pressure, because like we mentioned earlier, this letter from the Taliban, not widely publicized, the war is not publicized, American companies are making a lot of money, so these certain factors I think have played into this war being drawn out this long. American public not knowing what's going on, and a lot of people making a lot of money off of this war.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think the Taliban should republish that letter or expand it a little bit and sort of go after it instead of stopping it.
Right. We need to see these perspectives, because often, when I was researching for the film and I was trying to find the original clips and just clips of bin Laden, it was so difficult. You would think that Osama bin Laden, the most notorious terrorist on the planet, that his words would be easily accessible. But it took me a very long time to find what he was saying, because often we're not given the original dialogue, we're not given the perspectives from these opposing groups. We're just giving this translation or propaganda from our government and our media sources.
Well, it was the government and the media. The media really followed the government.
Yeah.
So when the government went after Afghanistan, the media just found things to publish, like what they did to women, what they did to this and that, and they had all this list of grievances piled up against the government of Afghanistan.
Yeah. That's often what happens, is our media just falls in line behind whatever the government is doing.
Do they do that all the time? I thought the media was independent.
I would not say that our media is independent. Highly influenced, maybe, our media. Yeah, I mean, it's a dynamic relationship.
Well, right now they're not agreeing with Trump. Whatever Trump says, they contradict what he says, and they says he's lying and so forth. So on. I'm surprised that they go after Trump like that.
Yeah, I mean, I think it was pretty evident that our media was pushing for a Clinton presidency. But what we end up seeing is the same people are in power anyway. Not a lot is really changing, even though Trump is a very dynamic figure. A lot of the same policies and a lot of the same people are still in place. So.
You think so? I think that may be true with the military, but not the rest.
Well, there's what you see with the Republicans is more of an extreme and a lot of additional policies that you don't see from the Democrats. But when it comes to the huge policies of foreign affairs, wars, bankings, it's usually very similar under both administrations.
It's similar, yes.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay, well, I guess we're getting the signal here to wrap up.
Okay, all right. Well, one last thing I want to mention is an article that was published in the Washington Post, and Washington Post is also a very influential paper. And in that article, also they mentioned the possibility of ending this war in Afghanistan. And however, they also mentioned the alternative dimensions of it, like the role of Pakistan and so forth. My position is we should keep Pakistan and all the other countries out of the negotiation, just negotiate between the United States and the Taliban. Once they reach an agreement, then we should have the Taliban negotiate with the other Afghan groups and find a solution. Thank you very much. بسیار زیاد تشکر از توجه شما. همین پروگرام چندین بار تکرار میشه. هر سوالی که داشته باشین لطفاً به ایمیل من توجه کنین. You don't have my email on there?
No, but you can let them know. Kamrany at USC.
Oh, my email is Kamrany, Kamrany at usc.edu. Thank you. بسیار زیاد تشکر. روز شما خوش. شب شما خوش. سعادت.